and you don't cite your sources,
right.
You're an educated fool, right? So a lot of times what they do is, yeah, I can be 100% educated, but if I'm not really looking at it from the holistic approach, right? So if the chief get fired today and they get somebody else, what changes? Nothing. So if we change the system, right? Like they saying, we change the whole entire system, right? And
that goes to policy, though.
And we change policy and all that. What changes? Nothing.
But no, let me say this though. Let me just segue on that though, because let me use this example. In Chicago, you got the folks and the peoples. The the folks have the 6-point star David, and the peoples have a crescent moon and a 5-point star. And I remember speaking with a brother from the Moore Science Temple, and he kind of put this to me like this: that once upon a time, them sciences were combined; they were one thing, because it's all spirituality. But them sciences got separated. Then you got these brothers with mathematics turned into games that are at each other because them sciences were split. So sometimes when you have people with opposing sides, something from the opposing sides, not everything they say is not necessarily wrong. I think our first goal is to have those police fired, charged for murder and sent to jail. Chief, sir, fired. But then after that, we need to attack the policy. Because the thing is, the way police are trained, the way that they are taught, it's a systemic thing. And it's always going to be some type of murder if you don't change the way that you're trained. And the same way we going hard on Chief Sir and these, 5 killer cops, we need to do the same thing with those suggestions. That's why the perfect hasn't been implemented.
But the point that I'm trying to make is, and I agree with what you're saying, but the point that I'm trying to make is any person, to me, if you throw in your credentials, you went to Yale and you went to all these prestige colleges, and now you use that as a sell point, every person that I think they should know basic common sense.
Right, you gotta have
common sense. I don't care if you're on that side or that side. Common sense is common, and it's not too common. It's not too common to everybody, right? So right. So when we think about this, even if they're all fired, nothing is going to change.
No.
Even with policies, nothing is going to change. The reason why it's not going to change is because we still have poverty. We still have people who are in poverty. People who are in poverty are going to the system. Right, and this has to be looked at from the whole system approach. We can't just tackle the police department. We got to tackle the police department, district attorney, the judges, the community. It has to be on all levels. Like I'm on the reentry council, and they were talking about a report from the Burns Institution that came out about racial disparity. Right, so they were all talking about how they're doing these reports in their own departments, the DA and all these different departments, and how they're trying to change certain things.
Right.
Even if they change those certain things, there's still going to be a high fluctuation of African American, Latino, Asian, whites going to jail because poverty.
Right. I got you.
Until we can tackle that issue and then move forward. Provide opportunity, provide economic growth in our communities, and then those things could begin to change. But they use the subtle wording and language because they masters of language, and say we change policy, and then the people who are that's not really tuned in, they believe that's going to change the issue.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to throw that out there. If it has to be tackled on the ground level, and then moved forward. Of course, we want this stuff with the police and all that. Immediately, that's the immediate thing that we're tackling, right? Boom. But then it also has to be tackled down here and on the different levels. And if it's not tackled on those levels, the issue is going to still remain, because there's still going to be people walking around selling drugs because they got to feed their family. There's people going to be still doing what they do because they have to provide, and poverty is the driving force of the system.
Right. And let me weigh in. That's well put, Rico. With Dr. King towards the end of his life, before he was assassinated, he was moving more towards Black power, meaning that politically correct even in them
Yeah, he
days.
wouldn't turn that cheek no more.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. But language is so important.
Language is
If I say I'm an African American versus I say I'm a black American or just a black person,
Yeah, it's a
people, it's a big difference on how people can receive that and perceive that.
And it is, yeah.
But isn't it true though that in this hour that we're living in, now I know Minister Farrakhan have raised the stakes in America. He have said over and over again, not only with the Justice or Else movement, but he has said that it's coming a time where black people have to realize that we're going to have to create our own. Because we're spending so much time trying to convince. Can you imagine, this is 2016, we're trying to convince someone that we're human.
Yeah.
With all we done went through here in America, we're still trying to convince them. So, isn't it true that at a certain point, if you're in a relationship, and a relationship have never benefited you, you well within your rights to separate from that relationship.
Get a divorce.
Yeah.
You can coexist, get a divorce, irreconcilable differences, get a divorce, you can coexist,
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily have to put your dependency based on that relationship.
Right.
You know, can we as black people understand that the time for us to start seeing, like the Black Panthers, one thing the Black Panthers prove is that you can have your own police force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I talked to a police officer a few years ago, and he said that we are not your first call, we're supposed to be your second call. In the black community, the dependency is so great. You would get more resistance from the black community if you say we don't need no police officers.
Right.
They say, oh no, we need some police officers. Somebody may, you know, my baby this or
And
that.
in the same breath, see somebody kill their son and don't say nothing.
Yeah.
So what? How can we just at least get our people to see that we got to start controlling our own? For us, of those who understand that there's a great value in having a Chinatown with a Chinese officer that have went through and been vetted by the Chinese people, with a Chinese embassy.
Right.
How do we get them to see that?
I think we
Go ahead.
I think we have to like go back to back in the day. Like back in the day, I remember at the Hebrew culture community. I remember my cousins back in the day. They would go out into the community, and they would be very visible in the community, handing out literature. You know what I mean? Having conversations with youngsters, and you know, none of them youngsters was they weren't standoffish. They was kind of like happy to be engaged in some type of knowledge.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
And I remember the Nation, they would be out there, third film or everywhere, no matter where. You seen somebody
Knocking
from the
on your
Nation,
door, selling big
you know what I
pies.
mean, in the community, and we pushing this movement. And I think that that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the ones who are conscious and uncompromisable to go into the communities and be consistent.
You got to be on the
It has to
ground.
be like consistent outreach, especially men.
Yes.
I mean, I got to be honest. There's a lot of women who doing some good work. I mean, you know, women, they stay in the trenches.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
It's on the ground.
You know what I mean? Because a man, we don't understand, you know, a mother losing a child.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just whole different dynamics in terms of pain and loss.
Right.
So I think that has to be somewhat of the push to get it going. To, you know, if we can be out there and then down, you can pull one, I can pull one, he can pull one, he can pull one. Those are mentors, and then those are mentees. And then our mentees, they got mentees. And then those mentees, they got mentees. Then we can start to push a movement. But these children, they have so much abandonment issues. No fathers, the homies, the big homies who raised them dead. You know what I mean? And they feel some type of way because the homie died.
Right.
You left me to be here alone and fight this war by myself. You know what I mean? So it's just really just being consistent, like being visible. Oh, Rico, he always around.
Right.
He like they always around. So I think that's what it is.
True.
Because a lot of times people they do what they do and they get on their high horse, or not even on the high horse. They just kind of like get into their own selves. Because everybody ain't arrogant and ain't buttholes, right? A lot of times people they start doing better for themselves and become it's just about me and I just want to help my family. I'm gonna move away instead of whatever was given to you. It has to be given back. You know what I mean? So I think that's one that way.
That's one of the biggest problems of the black community. That's the reason why we have difficulties today of trying to utilize and use the methods of the old, because the people that you had that gravitated to the Panther Party, everybody knew it was a need and was willing to follow. Whereas today, people know it's a need, but not willing to follow, because everybody is on I concept. The I concept has crushed us more than anything else. You know, instead of being what we as a family, we have always been we concepts. Now it's not that, you know, and being able to get with our people during that time, during the 60s, you know, you could put a visual up and people gravitate to it. You know, that's why we had the Panther as a symbol. You know, that's why we had the barrettes, the black barrettes that we wore. You know, the black leather coat. All that signified certain things, and it signified a certain amount of strength in the black community, because when you see something black in the black community at that time, it was strong. It was always, you know, even when within the family, you know, opposed to light skin and black skin. You know, it was always, the black brother was that strong one, that animal. Because this is what was also inbred into inner racism amongst our own kind. You know, that's where the chopping up is still going on. You know, I feel what we have to do now is touch our people. I'm talking about literally. You know, I was telling Brother Majid tonight about, like, before I left the block last night, you know, I was in Charlie's store, and all the youngsters was across the street at McDonald's on the grass. Then you had your OG, your middle-aged OGs and stuff on the other side of the street. But I walked across the street and I hugged all them and told them I love them and to stay safe. Then I walked back on across to Charlie's. You know, just them little things that I do like that, you know. Whenever I be anywhere, I don't have to see them. They see me, they're gonna stop. Hey, OG! And this is what we have to, you know, stir this here pot back up. You know, we have to stir that pot back up, because like it's OGs in, I see OGs that's over in Bayview, but they don't get that same reaction that I get over here in Philmont. And we ain't no different. You know, I'm talking about the strength is the same, you know, but it's the actions that we take to one another. You know, that's the, you know, I can go over in Bayview, Sunnydale, and I can get more love than the OGs that already live there, by just being in their face. You know, having that connection to the jailhouse with Raw Talk for Life, that was a tool that was great to go along in partnership with the new community leadership on it. You know, because that's a unifying. And that's what we have to grow at, by unifying each other, by touching. Same thing Rico was really saying. We have to do intense outreach. That's what I call it. You know, intense outreach.
I mean, if you pose the question, right, and we say we put this on the internet today, right now, right, and we pose the question, when was the last time you put a young person in? Yeah, you out there in TV land. When was the last time you pulled a youngster in? And it wasn't a part of some job program. It wasn't for, you know, numbers for your program. It had nothing to do with none of that. You just pulled this youngster in. You became their mentor. You supported them. They was able to call you when they was going through things. You was at their every beck and call. And you supported them to get to the next level. How many people could say, I've done that in the last year?
Very few.
You know what I mean? So I think like all that's 100% important.
Yeah,
that's
right.
It's about really giving back.
Right.
You know, in order to receive and grow.
And
on our people, and being there. That's what we do.
Well, our brother OG Eli Crawford just gave us our marching orders, and definitely Rico have sent the message to those out there in TV land, and as an appeal to those who's watching this talk show, we want to remind the OGs out there that we all have a role to play, and in this great community, black community of the Fillmore area, you know and I know that we are a family, and we just need to reconnect ourselves, and it's time for us to stand up.
Yeah.
So, you know, a part of the New Community Leadership Foundation is that we're producing new leaders, and we're producing new minds, and we believe that this organization can turn the tides of what's happening in our community, because the first key word in that is new, and meaning that the old is not working. So we need for you to participate. We need for you to join on to us. We have community meetings that we will be producing in the community coming up very shortly. We have plenty of things that we must do on the ground, and we will begin this intense outreach connection with the community, not just the Fillmore area, but this is ground zero for us.
Right.
We're born and raised in the Fillmore area.
Yeah.
But we understand that this goes across district boundaries, across state boundaries, and wherever our people at and wherever that struggle at, we want to be there on the scene. We want to take a 5-minute break, but we're going to come back and end with economics and boycott, and how do we redirect the money that's being sucked out of the black community. Instead of them dollars going to McDonald's, them dollars could be going back into the black community. And we have some things that we think we can share with you that we will be doing that will help us to see that once you become conscious and keep the dollar in the black community, we can quickly start pulling our resources together, and then we can have Black Town just like they have Chinatown.
Africa Town.
Yeah.
That's a good break.